Hello and welcome into another edition of State of the Sun Devils alongside Jesse Morrison and Damon Allred. I'm Jeremy Schnell. We're going to fill out our college football playoff brackets. I can't believe we're at this point, guys, where ASU is in the college football playoff with a first round bye, the number 4 seeded team in this college football playoff. So we're going to fill out our brackets. Also, if you want to join our bracket coverage, we're going to put that on our social media. So if you want to join our bracket
group on ESPN.
Yeah, so we're going to put that out on our Twitter. AZ Sports Devils is where you can find us there. Feel free to beat us all in bracket guessing. Maybe you'll win something. I don't know if ESPN's doing like a winning contest thing this year, but yeah, if you guys want to do that, feel free to come and beat us. That would be really helpful and really bring us down to earth a little bit because we think we know a lot about college football, right, Jesse?
January madness.
It's funny. What we're also going to do, we're going to talk about men's hoops as well. They have a big game coming up this Saturday against number 9 ranked Florida. And we are also going to probably wrap up our volleyball coverage for the season. Obviously, tough loss to Texas A&M the other day. We're going to talk about that. But first, the snubbage of Cam Skattebo.
Is snubbage a word?
Snubbage. He got snubbed.
Okay.
Snubbage, right?
Whatever you want to say.
He came in, looks like he probably is going to come in 5th in Heisman voting, it looks like. I would be surprised if he were lower than that, but going to the ceremony, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward, we know who's going to be 1 and 2 in this award. We might not know who's going to be 3 and 4 and 5, but Travis Hunter is going to win this award. We knew that. We knew Ashton Genty was going to finish ahead of Cam Skattebo. Man, did he deserve to be there on Saturday at this Heisman ceremony.
Yeah, here's my issue with this entire snubbage. Yep. Here's my issue with the snubbage. So, Dylan Gabriel, yes, he doesn't have the best numbers ever, but he is the quarterback of an undefeated team and is completing about 74% of his passes. Yes,
he deserves it.
His touchdown passes are like 28, but he's meant a lot to that team. He should be there. Cam Ward, really? Come on. That dude is not in the college football playoff. I mean, I know that Travis Hunter isn't, but what he has done is completely different than like anything we've really ever seen before. Or you have to go back to, back when two-way players were common. It's crazy what he has done. Cam Ward has had a really good year for a 10-2 Miami team. Who honestly could have been 8 and 4 if you think about their game against Cal, where there was a blatant missed targeting penalty, or they overturned it. And then there was the Virginia Tech game, which that was totally a catch, should have lost that game. So, you go through those Cam Ward season, and it just doesn't line up with what Cam Skattebo has done. Cam Skattebo has had a season that is like Christian McCaffrey levels of good.
He's the first player since Christian McCaffrey to have over 500 receiving yards and over 1,500 rushing yards.
Yes, and if he hadn't missed that one game, he probably is there. But I still don't think it really matters because if you look at Cam Ward and you look at Travis Hunter, they've played the same amount of games as Cam Skattebo now because they didn't play in their conference championship game. So it's just confusing to me. I don't get it. I think that it's a flawed system. I think that
over 1,000 people vote on it.
I think that there should be more finalists.
Should there be more voters?
Maybe there should be more voters, but there should be more finalists. There should be 5 finalists every year. That should be the base. Every single season, there's 5 finalists. They've got to fill up an hour of programming. Why not just stretch it out with more feature stories on players? Who cares? I think Cam deserved to get this opportunity to go to New York, and it's going to be a bummer for him on Saturday, just sitting, in Tempe, not just watching it or whatever.
There's not a lot of places that I think he'd rather sit, though, than Tempe, Arizona. It's paradise here. As Kenny Dillingham has said many times.
I think he'd rather be in New York for this weekend, personally.
But if you had to choose a place to be other than at the Heisman ceremony, Tempe's pretty high up there on the list.
Yeah. And shout out our own Dan Bickley for getting Skattebo a first place vote in the Heisman.
Is that confirmed? I don't think we're allowed to say that.
Yeah, he said it.
There's articles out there about it. Yes, Dan Bickley.
I disagree with Dan. I mean, I think Cam should be a finalist, shouldn't win it, but I do think, yes, he should be a finalist.
Did you hear his reasoning, though?
Yes.
Shedeur Sanders is going to be a top 3 pick in the draft. He's the quarterback of Travis Hunter, team that lost 3 games. And then Ashton
I think he deserved it over Cam Ward.
Shedeur, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. And then obviously you have a player in Ashton Genty who has done it against Mountain West competition. Other than the Oregon game, that is probably the outlier, 3 touchdowns over 200 yards. That's probably most of the reason why that he's ahead of Skattebo and being over 2,000 yards rushing.
How do you guys think things would be different if Genty and Skattebo swapped places this year?
Genty's pretty incredible, dude.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean,
I know he is.
Yeah,
I know he is.
they
I'm just saying.
they both break a lot of tackles.
How different would it be? That's all I'm asking.
I'm not sure. Not very different, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been very different, honestly.
Yeah.
Either way.
Genty is on another level from any running back.
No, I'm saying for both
opinion.
teams. Like if ASU had Genty, would they? Be
I think
undefeated.
I think they'd probably have one loss. Yeah.
Yeah, I think both teams would probably be in the same situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would just flop. I think flip flop. I think Boise State would have 2 losses. ASU would have 1. Honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's that. Cam Skattebo not at the Heisman ceremony. Damon, blessing in disguise though. Doesn't have any distractions going into the Peach Bowl.
Maybe extra motivation, if anything.
Extra motivation. It could have been used as possibly a recruiting tool by Kenny Dillingham and his staff. Hey, look, we send people to the Heisman ceremony in New York. But now you can say, hey, look, we go and play in the college football playoff. We play in Jerry World all the time, too. We play in the Big 12 championship game. Like, there are recruiting tools that are also bigger than just sending a person to the Heisman. Obviously, he got 3rd place, I think, in AP Player of the Year, which is probably where he should have possibly been in the Heisman voting. Dylan Gabriel, I don't care. That's probably a good pick. I think they're interchangeable in that scenario. But for motivation wise, I think you're right, Damon. It's probably better for him to have not made it, honestly.
Right.
But do you think that it's good that he possibly a blessing in disguise, Damon?
I'm never going to say that it's good for a guy to not get considered for an award he probably deserves consideration for. But yeah, in terms of the distractions and all that, this is a long period of time between games for ASU. I think it's 23 days between the Big 12 championship and the Peach Bowl. It's very good to just be totally locked in on, Texas Clemson are playing very soon after that and everything. So yeah.
Now let's get to some unfortunate news for ASU football. They're losing one of their depth cornerbacks in LT Welch. He has been dismissed from the team looks like he stole some sort of watch and
luxury watch.
Got dismissed from the team and immediately entered the portal.
Yeah, he was dismissed from the team when he was arrested by Scottsdale PD for stealing a $30,000 watch, not just from anyone, from a teammate, which is like that's immediate grounds for, he's got to go. He's had some really big plays for them this year. That's an unfortunate decision by him.
The pick 6 against UCF is one that comes
correct.
to mind.
Yep. I hope that this, gets to him and he can go on to another school and, shape up, I guess, and just be, he can grow from this moment. That's personally what I hope for him. But yes, this is the right decision by Kenny Dillingham. And I'm not sure, I don't try to talk about the previous coaching staff very much anymore, but I'm not sure this would have been a move that the previous coaching staff would have made. They might have done a suspension or something like that, but I just don't see this being a move that they would have made as far as dismissing him from the team. And I think that it's shows a lot of Kenny Dillingham that an important player like LT Welch has been dismissed ahead of a college football playoff. It's a good move by
in a game
Dillingham.
where they really could have used the depth because Shamari Simmons is not going to play in the first half probably.
Yep.
Assuming that appeal doesn't get, I guess,
overturned.
Yes.
Yeah. That decision doesn't get overturned in the appeal.
To me, the craziest part about this Welch situation is just because, like, how does another locker room ever trust him again when you're making that sort of decision? Like, that is your brother that you have gone through the whole season with, and you're taking something that is very valuable just by monetary principles, but also, you don't know what sort of family connection he might have had to it,
Could
or anything
have been
like
like
that.
his grandmother's or his grandfather, something like that.
Absolutely. And it's just a really unfortunate decision that he made. And from talking to him this season, he just seemed like a total true competitor to me, someone that was going to stick around for a while. But these decisions, you can't make them. Like it's hard to come back from those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the coaching staff did right away, nipped it in the bud right away, make sure that those type of decisions don't get made by players on this football team. And Jesse, like you said, it shows growth in the culture of this university and possibly this football team moving forward.
Yep.
Now let's get to our bracket picks.
Fun stuff now.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about snubbage and arrests anymore.
Yes.
Jesse,
Snubbage.
do we want to just kind of go by starting at the second round?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's do that.
And let's go quick.
All right. Texas, ASU, Peach Bowl.
Okay.
Who do you got?
Well, I have Clemson versus ASU in the Peach Bowl.
Well, I have Texas.
I have
Okay.
Texas also.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You think Dabo?
I do. I think that Texas is kind of a fraud
Okay.
this year.
Who do you have in that game is my
Who
question.
do I have in that game? I have ASU beating Clemson.
Okay.
Correct.
Damon?
I have ASU beating Texas.
I have ASU also beating Texas.
There we go.
All right.
We all think ASU's got one more win in them? Or do any of us
We'll
have
get
them?
there. We'll get there.
Yeah,
We'll get
okay.
there.
and we'll do our pregame picks on our pregame show in a few weeks.
Yes,
so,
could change.
We'll
Could change.
go more into depth about that game, obviously, in just under 3 weeks.
Yes.
But for the rest of that side of the bracket, right?
Yeah, it's Ohio State / Tennessee versus Ohio against Oregon. Now,
I have Tennessee going to play Oregon.
okay,
Same.
I have Ohio State playing Oregon.
Wild.
I do not think Ryan Day has any good energy left in him. I think he will lose this game and get out of Columbus as quick as he can.
Here's what I'll say
Got
about
to get out of Columbus alive.
Here's what I'll say about Tennessee. I think that their quarterback doesn't play up to the standard in big games. That's what I've
neither
seen.
does Will Howard. So we can have this.
I think-
have that same conversation about Ohio
I
State.
think the talent around Ohio State much better than Tennessee is what I'll say.
Makes sense. Jeremiah Smith and whatnot.
Correct. Now, I have Oregon beating whoever they play in that game.
Yeah.
I also have Oregon.
Yes.
yeah.
So
Same.
we all have the Lanningham matchup in the semifinal.
Which would be so cool. Yes.
Yes.
Boise State versus Penn State / SMU.
Penn State.
I like what SMU has done this year, so I am going to go with SMU, actually. And I liked that comeback that they made. I think that Penn State hasn't really played anyone, and when they did, they didn't play well. So,
Wait, the comeback that they almost made.
or yeah,
Getting it close. Yes.
Yeah, they made it
tied.
close.
They tied
Yeah.
the game too.
They had a solid comeback in that Clemson game. So yeah, I like what
Both
they've been
teams.
doing. I
Both
like-
teams had solid comebacks. Penn State.
Yeah, but Penn State hasn't beat anyone this year. I don't trust them.
They never beat anyone.
SMU.
Boise.
James Franklin 0-25 or
Yeah.
something against top.
So
ranked
I
teams.
have Penn State against Boise State. And
I
Okay.
also have that, and I have
Okay.
Penn State winning.
I too have Penn State.
I have SMU winning. I think that this Mountain West thing, I think the ACC has been slept on this year personally, and just like the Big 12 has been slept on. So I'm gonna go with SMU.
Georgia versus Indiana or Notre Dame. Jesse, you're going with Indiana.
I'm going with Notre Dame.
You really?
Yeah,
I'm
Jordan
shocked.
Clark.
The amount of time. Listen, the amount of times Jesse has bashed Notre Dame on this podcast.
Yeah, okay.
I am shocked
so
by
the
this.
same thing comes in with another one of these Big Ten teams, which is funny because you'll see my champion. But
Spoilers.
Indiana, I haven't said anything. Indiana kind of got smacked by Ohio State in the one big game that they had, and so I don't trust Indiana. I think that Notre Dame.
What big games has Notre Dame played in?
The USC game
It's called convincing wins,
and ASU has had those recently.
yeah, and
a good
I
point.
think that Notre Dame has just shown recently that they're a really good team. So I've got Notre Dame.
When I was with Damon the other day on Arizona Sports at Night with Mitch when he brought us on, I said that the ASU's playing like the second best team in the country right now. I think it's Oregon. I think it's ASU. And then the third team that's very close is Notre Dame.
You're saying this Lanningham semifinal might be for the national championship? Is this what you're saying, Jeremy?
No, but what I'm saying is I'm trying to agree with Jesse's point here. Notre Dame is playing like the third best team in the country right now. So will that continue? I don't think so, because I just can't get over that Northern Illinois loss. I just can't.
Okay.
I also remember that
So you
Northern
guys both
Illinois
have
loss.
Indiana.
I have Indiana, yeah.
Yes.
Indiana too?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think Georgia wins, though.
I
against
do
Indiana.
think Georgia wins. It is unfortunate because I think this is maybe the worst Georgia team we've seen this decade.
But their defense.
Exactly why I have Notre Dame beating Georgia, especially with the
Whoa.
injury to Carson
Wow.
Beck. You don't know what Carson
Jaden
Beck's
Rashada in.
He's like their fourth stringer. If Carson Beck can't play, and even if he does play, he might not be 100%. So, I got Notre Dame.
Okay.
Wow.
Semifinal ASU taking on Oregon. Lanningham.
Oregon, unfortunately.
Ducks. Yeah, I think no one's beating them, honestly. They're really good.
In my
Although, I have to say-
in my fun bracket, I have ASU winning.
Okay.
Can I say real quick? We have seen plenty of occasions this season of Kenny out coaching a coach that either he has coached under or has really admired. Kyle Whittingham, Gus Malzahn, the list goes on and on. I feel like, and
This
Could
team's got
we-
too much
I
talent.
mean, he also
This team's got too much
could it
talent.
happen?
last year he outcoached Deion Sanders when they came here, even though
Yeah.
they lost that game.
He
so-
outcoached Chris Peterson in the
It's-
Washington
it's
game,
not-
or
it-
not Chris Peterson, the other coach. Was it DeBoer?
It was Kalen DeBoer, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. I think that I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I think that Oregon's got so much talent, and they're unlike like an old Chip Kelly Oregon team. This team flies around and is physical and fast. Like Oregon is just they're ballers. That team is a bunch of ballers. And so I think they're gonna win on it.
They're almost
honestly.
like if ASU was made up of 5 stars instead,
Correct.
but like that same identity of like
Correct.
playing the same kind of
Love
way.
that. Love that
Dillingham
comp. Yeah.
kind of builds his philosophies out of that same landing stuff a lot of the time. So yeah,
So we all have Oregon.
we all
Yeah.
have Oregon in the final.
Yep.
Yep.
And Jesse, SMU versus Notre Dame.
Gonna do it again, and they're playing really well right now. Notre Dame.
Jeez, man. I can't believe you're doing
They
this.
played
I
really
can't
well in
either. I
their
can't-
conference championship.
They didn't have a conference championship, which helps. I think they're gonna be
less
super well
momentum?
rested.
Damon, we have the same semifinal, right? Penn State, Georgia.
I have Penn State, Georgia, and then I have Penn State beating Georgia.
I have
to break that 0-25 streak for James Franklin.
I can't believe it. I have Oregon versus Georgia, and I don't trust it at all.
Well,
I
haven't
think-
we seen that already this season, Oregon, Georgia?
No.
Oh.
Oh, maybe. Was that the first game of the
It
season?
might have been week 1.
I don't think that was
Or
this
it was
year.
last
I
year.
think that was a last year game.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I have Oregon, Penn State, and I have Oregon winning.
You have Oregon versus Penn State.
Yeah.
I have Oregon versus Georgia, and I have Oregon winning.
So we all have Oregon winning all of it?
Yep,
Yeah.
Oregon over Notre Dame for me. And I'm another one of those media members that overhypes Notre Dame. There you go.
We are the podcast that picks the undefeated team to stay undefeated.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy.
Very, very interesting
Now,
picks by all of us.
Let me see. The first week of the season was Clemson, Georgia.
Yep.
Clemson, Georgia.
Which could happen in the final. The path is there.
So
We all have ASU losing in the semifinal to Oregon.
Yeah,
Is
but
that
in my
what we
fun
all
bracket,
three
I have them winning the national
Well, yeah, of
championship.
course.
No, nobody cares about your fun bracket, Jeremy.
Jeremy cares.
Yeah, and does the audience though?
Again, if you want to join our bracket, we'll be posting that on our Twitter at AZ Sports Devils is where you can find it there. Come beat us and show us how much more you know about college football than us. We would really appreciate that. Damon knows a lot about college basketball. Good segue. Damon has really enjoyed watching this Arizona State men's basketball team. Josan Sannon has been fantastic at shooting the ball. Dare I say he is the best shooter in ASU history so far. If you were to end the season right now, he is over 50% three-point shooting. But, small sample size. He's been fantastic. The biggest thing, though, is this team has a huge test, as they did early in the season against Gonzaga. Now they go to a neutral site and play an SEC opponent in Florida who's ranked number 9 in the country.
To Atlanta. So the whole school getting in on this trip to Atlanta kind of trend here. But yeah, Florida's a really, really good team. They've got some really, really good guards.
They also have a 7'8" guy that does not play.
Yeah, Olivier Rioux. if you want to pronounce it.
he is actually
like that.
7'9", Jeremy. He's 7'9", and he's redshirting.
There's a very funny clip of him doing the mic and drill up on...
And he missed a layup.
And he's just like inches away from the rim. It looks very funny.
Yeah, he's probably the tallest basketball player I've ever seen.
But anyway, he's not going to play. We don't have to talk about him. Guys like Will Clayton.
Bring it up.
Yeah. Will Clayton, Elijah Martin. Elijah Martin, you may remember from that Final Four FAU team a few years back.
Yes.
Really, really good guards, especially for the college game, that can just like manage the offense and get people their shots and get their own shots. Elijah Martin more so in the getting his own shot variety than Will Clayton is. But it's a really, really good team and a really good coach, despite his current off the court
He's good at coaching
situations.
basketball.
He's good at coaching basketball.
Allegedly not a great person.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly not a great person.
Let's say like this ASU team has looked good so far, right? Obviously, they kept it close against Gonzaga. Right now, they're just on the outside looking in of the AP poll. Technically, would be ranked 27th if there was a 27th ranked team. You can watch this game on SEC Network, but you can also listen to it on Arizona Sports 98.7 and the Arizona Sports app. Looking at this team, obviously they lose a depth piece in Nunez the other day, out for the season. How much does that hurt them going into this game and for the rest of the season?
It's interesting. Bobby Hurley, when he was on Bickley and Murata this week and was talking about the Nunez injury, he said that he has a lot of confidence in Alston Mason to play 35 minutes a game if he has to. And honestly, out of all the transfers that we've seen have big impacts on this team, Bashir Jihad and BJ Freeman among them, I think Mason has given me the most confidence in how consistent he can be. And especially in a league like the Big 12, it's really important to have a point guard that can keep you steady offensively and get into the paint, dish it out, play good defense. And for his size, he's like maybe pushing 6'1". He's definitely playing tough defense so far through these 9 games. And I think Mason has a chance to really take firm grip of that point guard spot and not really give it up to anyone on the ASU side.
I really like BJ Freeman, and I'm glad you brought him up because he plays a little bigger than he is. He is 6'6", but he can play in the post a little bit, and he's scrappy with getting his rebounds. But I also like his shot. I think he's been really impressive, like you say about Alston Mason. I really like what I've seen from BJ Freeman.
Yeah, his 3-point shot looks a little weird but
it goes in.
It goes in a good amount of the time. I think he's like high 30s%.
I'm on it.
And yeah, just really good transfers around these young freshmen that are kind of dominating.
Well, Freeman's 29%, so I was wrong. But
he's had like a ton of shot attempts, right?
He's about 40% from the field.
Yeah.
So, but I like his shot in rhythm. He's able to spread the floor, and it helps the team that he does at least take that shot.
Yeah, and Jesse, speaking of good shooting, how do you think Josan Sanin has looked as a shooter this season?
I mean, he's been great. Like I have absolutely loved watching him. I think he's their clear and best player.
Playmaker, I would say.
I think he's their best player on the team. I think he's the best player on the team. He's shown that he is their most consistent player. I feel like every game he shows up. That's something that I have loved to see this year. We've seen so many of these Bobby Hurley teams that haven't been consistent. I feel like for the most part this year, this team is showing up. They're being consistent. They can shoot the ball, which we've not always seen that from a Bobby Hurley team. And I feel like the offense isn't as stagnant as it has been under Bobby Hurley. Like there's been moments that they're not perfect, but the ball movement has looked really good to me. And yeah, they're knocking down threes, and I think that we really need to bring up Jaden Quaintance too, because he's just been a force on defense.
Yes,
one of the best
almost 4 blocks a game.
Yeah, one of the best shot blockers in the country, second in blocks total in the country this year, and that block that he had in their last game, oh my gosh, it
came up off the floor.
I was like, yeah, is it goaltending? It wasn't. It was as close to goaltending as you could possibly get without it being goaltending, and that was what made it so incredible. And he has a big challenge this week, though, because the player that really stood out to me when I was watching Florida is Alex Condon. He's their post player. Dude can pass. He has just a really good game in the post. And he's averaging like 13.7 rebounds this year, 6'11" guy. So he's got a little bit of a size advantage on Jaden. So I think that's a guy that, you know, Jaden Quaintance has to stop him this week, or I think it could be a long day for ASU, but I don't think it will, because I think he'll meet the challenge.
And yeah, Jaden's been the anchor of the defense.
What do you think the defense has to do specifically on Saturday, though, to make sure that they don't give up as many easy buckets against Florida as they've been getting this season?
I think a lot of it is going to come down to how well the team rotates on the perimeter. And this is something that I've seen that they've really done a good job of so far, is communicating on switches and rotating into good spots, gambling at the right times. And Josan Sanin, Adam Miller, they've been incredible on that front. Alston Mason at the top of the key at times. Amir Ali has been disruptive on the defensive end, sometimes leading the press.
He's sneaky long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bashir Jihad leading the press sometimes too as well. But offensively, I mean, we talked about the consistency of the offense to show up game in and game out. They've scored 80-plus points in 7 out of the 9 games. That's already more than they had all of last season when they had 6 in 32 games. And one of those 6 took overtime to get there.
Yeah, it'll be a fun game to watch on Saturday. Again, you can listen to it on the Arizona Sports app and on 98.7 FM if you are in the car or just want to hear Tim Healy's beautiful voice on the call. Now let's talk about another sad thing. Volleyball did not make it past the round of 32. They fall to Texas A&M. Jesse, you were there. Congratulations to the team, I will say, first of all, on winning the Big 12 in its first season. JJ Van Niel has taken this team he's taken a step in the right direction with this team, is what I wanted to say. Yeah. And it started last year, and it's really continued into this past season now. Yeah,
so Friday against New Hampshire, super easy for them. They dominated that game. We won't get into that one. Saturday, I just had a weird feeling going into that one. And just, Texas A&M was big. ASU is not that big of a team, or this year's team wasn't that big of a team. And if you don't know what physicality in volleyball is, it's a team that can play really, up at the net really well, and that's something that Texas A&M did really well, and that was what really I felt like hurt ASU. And ASU just not enough full swings in this game as far as like with their arm. Like it was a lot of just like trying to like tap it over the net.
Playing out of structure probably was
the
problem.
And I was just like they need to be more aggressive here, and I just from like the start I could see this was not going well. And yeah, it's really disappointing. This team had wanted to go a long way further than that. The players were very, very upset. I think that also we might have overestimated this team a little bit this year. They did lose their best player from a year ago that took them further than this.
Yeah.
Who's like a real star. Apparently she's having great success in professionals over in Europe, but Marta Levinska, not having her, I think, hurt, especially in this game. So, yeah, they've got to regroup next year, and I think that they're at a point where this was disappointing and that they should want better results from this. And I think JJ Van Niel would be the first person to tell them to say that.
They're at a point where this team has expectations now, and how do they respond to that going into next season? I think it's going to be fun to see with this team and this group. That's going to do it for this edition of State of the Sun Devils. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Again, you can find us on all forms of social media at AZ Sports Devils. You can find all of Damon's articles on ArizonaSports.com and the Arizona Sports app. For Jesse Morrison, Damon Allred, I'm Jeremy Schnell. We'll talk to you soon.
Join our bracket group.